Bonjour tout le monde and welcome to the Malt Cask. Something a bit different today for my 50th post, as I decided to go for a video rather than a traditional written post. However, I have no real intention to shift from written to video format, and I just thought it was post number 50. Let's do something different to put on the blog, and then started wondering what kind of things could I do. As I've just said, the review is not for me. Well, not for me maybe yet. I don't know about the future, but not at this stage at the moment. And after thinking a bit more about it, I just decided to kind of go down the update for my collection. So that's what I decided to do today. So you will notice some bottles, quite a few of them I have already reviewed before on the blog. Some of them I haven't yet, but I will be doing in the coming weeks, coming months. So let's get started. In terms of classification, I've tried to group them as much as I could, but again, I've not really spent too much and too long thinking about it. So let's get started. Bourbons. I've got 4 bourbons, which I open. I've got the Woodford Reserve, the standard one, which I think is very good. Lots of different flavours in there. Each time I drink it, I kind of manage to pick new ones. Buffalo Trace, sweeter than Woodford, but again, very nice bourbon. You can pick them up in supermarkets for rather cheap, rather frequently on offer as well. So that's quite good. Maker's Mark is my third one. Maker's Mark, I'll be fully honest, I don't like it quite as much as the other two before. A bit chalky, a bit more mineral, a bit more floral. I do like bourbons to be a bit more vanilla and sweeter personally, so these two to me are better than Maker's Mark. Jack Daniel's single barrel, a bit spicier, obviously slightly higher ABV, just a 1 barrel, fairly decent. I've never really been too much into Jack Daniel's, but it's a perfectly decent bourbon. After that, moving on to the only Japanese whiskey that I have, that was given to my parents a couple of years ago, brought back from France, is the Malt by Nikka. I started drinking that when I didn't really know much about whiskey, with Coke, which I thought made the best whiskey and Coke I had ever tasted. But in the last kind of year and a half, getting more into it, I've started drinking it, just neat. Very pleasant. Again, it's quite entry, but not a bad whiskey at all. Irish, then, that's a Bushmills 10. Picked it up on offer. It's the only Irish I have. Didn't really know any Irish. I thought I'll give it a try. A bit like Maker's Mark, really. I'll drink it at times, but it's a bit too mineral. There's something, I don't know, maybe a little bit of sweetness lacking in there. I'd love to try Green Spot and Yellow Spot, apparently very good Irish whiskies. But I shall see in the future whether I can get hold of some bottles. Finally, on this first row, that's the Black Label from Johnny Walker blend, aged for a minimum of 12 years. Cracking dram, I do think. Really nice flavour. I can really pick the Kalila in there. Quite an easy one to drink as well, if you don't want to spend half an hour nosing and picking up flavours apart and things like that. Or rather, picking flavours apart, or picking up flavours from the same dram. That's a cracker, really good dram, and I will actually have to get hold of a second bottle soon. Now, if we go down to the next row, Glenmorangie. To be honest, Glenmorangie in there has been here for quite a while. It's the very first bottle I was given. There's still some in there. It's probably over 7 years old. I don't know whether I'll bother reviewing. Maybe just the effect of time on a whiskey, and it's lost a lot of its flavour, really. A couple of sherry ones afterwards. Glendronach. I think Glendronach reference in the sherry world, and I know lots of people will associate sherry more with Macallan, the old ones, but Glendronach, in my mind, you get much better value for money. It is bottled at 43% for the 12 years. It's natural colour, unchill filtered, and if you look at the colour, look at that, wonderful dram. Aberlour Abuna, this one is batch 53, cask strength, sherry bomb, only whiskey I need to add quite a bit of water to. Normally a couple of drops are enough, but for this one I really need 2 to 3 teaspoons to really enjoy it. Really strong. This one has been bottled 59.7%, so yeah, quite a strong whiskey. On to Balvenies, 12, really nice standard 12. Honey and vanilla and some kind of really nice sweet notes. Wonderful dram. Caribbean Cask, 14-year-old. Balvenie. Yes, it's a rum cask finish. I was expecting more of the rum kind of hints into it, more flavour from the rum. I think it's a dram I'm enjoying more and more as I drink it, and as the bottle goes down, there's still quite a lot in there, but progressively getting there. But I still think I was expecting more rum flavours around there. Aberlour's 16 years old. A bit disappointing, I do find, for a 16-year-old. I picked it up cheap in France in a supermarket. It was on offer, probably around the £20-25 mark. Yes, it's perfectly pleasant, but to me it lacks a bit complexity for an older whiskey, really. But still fairly decent. It's one I've not reviewed yet, so we'll have to at some point. Benromach, 10 years old. This one, ended up buying it. I've reviewed it on the blog. Ended up buying it following on what Ralphie, for those of you who don't know, Ralphie reviews whiskey on YouTube videos. His whiskey of the year, what was that, last year, 2 years ago? Gave it a try. Quite cheap. You won't necessarily find it in supermarkets, but I think around about £34, if I remember correctly. And really nice and sweet and spicy dram. Going into the sweet and spicy, let's start with the following at the beginning of the next shelf. Spice Tree from Compass Box. That is a malt blend, so a blend of single malts in there. Love what Spice Tree do and what they stand for. Lots of people have probably heard about Compass Box trying to fight for a bit more transparency in the whiskey industry. Basically, these guys would have no problem telling you exactly what whiskey they've put in that bottle, really, and percentages of each of them, but the Scotch Whisky Association is not in favour of them doing that. But really nice, sweet, spicy dram as well. Moving on to Glen Scotia. Glen Scotia, Campbelltown. Not reviewed it. It's the last bottle I think I bought. I will probably review it at some point pretty soon, I would think. A bit sweeter. It's still sweet and spicy, that kind of idea, but a bit sweeter I do find than the Spice Tree and the Benromach above, but really nice dram as well, and again, not too expensive. Then we move on to 3 French whiskies. Now the first two, that blue bottle, blue box, and the black ones, come from a distillery called Roselier. It's produced in Lorraine, which is northeast France, close to Germany, really. That first one is their standard one. It's called Whisky de Lorraine, and it's a lovely dram. It really reminds me of Highland Park. Same kind of idea, with a mixture of spices and sweetness and a little hint of peat, and lovely dram. The second one, which won a few awards in France actually, is called Tourbé Collection, which means Tourbé in French is peaty, so it's a peaty collection. Yes, I was expecting more peat personally, because that's supposed to be their peatiest, and I was expecting more peat, but it's still a really nice dram, just gentle peat in there. After that, Cornog, from a distillery called Glenarmore in Brittany, northwest France. For those of you familiar with or looking into the new distilleries being built on Islay, there is one which should be built in Gartbreck. It will be built by the owners, the Dunnies, and they own the Glenarmore distillery in Brittany. They do 2 main releases, Glenarmore, the unpeated, and Cornog, the peated. This one is a 2015 edition. Very nice, very authentic, live flame, worm tubs, wooden washbacks, and all these things. Great stuff. Quite. Somebody described it to me as a sweet Ardbeg. It's peaty, but you still get a lot of sweetness. Ardmore, the standard legacy Again, picked up quite early on in my journey of discovery, of whiskey discovery really, purely because it said lightly peated on the box, and I thought, £20, let's give it a try. It's alright, it's pretty much what you expect from a £20 bottle really. Nothing amazing in terms of flavours, but it's perfectly drinkable. Lagavulin, the 2. Now, I have reviewed both. I love both, but I prefer the 8. I think there's more smoke, and that smoke really takes you into the smoking rooms for the malt really. I could really picture myself being in there. Great dram. I think I've got 3 bottles of that one. 16, bit of a hype I thought at the beginning, because I had heard so much about it. Then when I bought a bottle and cracked it open, I was expecting more. But it is still, the more I drink it, the more I enjoy it. They are still really good drams. Same price pretty much for both, and I know people will say, well, spending the same money for a 16 or an 8, I'd rather go the 16. Personally, in my mind, the 8 is better. That's my taste, that's my opinion. You're fully entitled to disagree. Moving on to the last row of bottles I have got open. Galila 12. Nearly my first bottle, the one which really got me into peat. I definitely, as you can see, need to get hold of another bottle because I'm running rather low on that one. But lovely dram, Galila 12, really salty peat, lovely. Two Lafroigs, the quarter cask, very volatile dram, I do think, because I end up cooking quite a lot with it as well. I know it might be a bit of a shame, a bit of a sacrilege, but I love the peat taste of Lafroigs. You need to be in the mood for them because they're quite medicinal, quite TCP. The quarter cask has got lots of cereal in there, lovely dram, and still affordable. The 18, I think, has been discontinued, more expensive. I would not put this one in the cooking, really, in food. Lovely, more matured, rounder, spicier, firer, more tar, more lovely dram as well. Kilhoman, small distillery on Islay. That's Matthew Bay, the 2014 edition. I don't think they used to put that on the box. They no longer do. But that's 2014. Really nice, authentic, 46% natural colour and chill filtered. Everything's done on the distillery farm. It's a farm distillery. Lovely thing, really. The 100% Islay is completely done on Islay. From the growing of the barley to the bottling, really. Bruichladdich, the Islay barley, 2009. Only one really which gives me a different experience in terms of tasting fresh, sweet barley. Lovely dram. I reviewed that. That's the last post I reviewed, post 49. Great dram as well. Looking forward to reviewing more of Bruichladdich and getting hold of more. And finally, of my open collection, that is an independent bottler, All Malt Cask, from Hunter Lang, and it's a Kalila 19. Bought that a few months ago. Probably the most expensive in here because it cost me over £100. But look at the colour. Bottle at 50%, natural colour, unchill filtered from a single cask. And for people who really want to know, the cask is HL 12001. Refill hogshead, 200 bottles, lovely dram. Really nice, smoky, barbecue nearly with some peat. Now, some of you might notice on the left I've got more bottles. Now, these are bottles which I have bought to be drunk, but not opened yet. We've got my 212 standard favourite. I have just finished both of the my other bottles. We're looking at Highland Park 12 and Bunnahabhain 12. Definitely, to me, amongst the best, if not the 2 best 12 out there. Balvenie 12 is really good, but these two are absolutely amazing. Highland Park is so complete in terms of flavour for me. Bunnahabhain is an amazing Islay, which doesn't really taste of peat. It's not really peated, this one. It's very Christmas cakey, dried fruit, lovely drams. Glenmorangie, the basic ones, that's a present I was given. Yeah, not much expectation, it's not open yet, but yeah, I'll just crack it open at some point and see what I think of it. Bowmore 12, I really got into whiskey with Bowmore. The 12, getting back to it recently, I do think is a bit too mass market type. mass production. It lacks more depth, extra layers of flavour. It's bottled at 40, it's chill filtered, it's coloured, and I know that shouldn't affect anything, but it lacks an extra dimension. Glenlivet 15, picked up in France. French Oak Reserve, looking forward to trying that. Dalwhinnie 15, the first bottle I ever bought. That was whilst I was at the distillery about 10 years ago, and I didn't really care too much about whiskey. I think my dad drank most of my bottle. Clynelish 14, amazing, north of the Highlands, next to Brora, the old distillery. I've not opened my bottle yet, but I have tried it, and it's absolutely amazing. I can't wait to try it. Eagle Rare, that's the, I think, single barrel from Buffalo Trace, a 10-year-old. Looking forward to trying that bourbon as well. Scapa 16 has been discontinued. I've got a few bottles left in France. Never tried it before. Will be really interested to try it. Talisker Storm, again, picked that up really half price in a supermarket. I couldn't really say no. My experience of Talisker is quite a lot of pepper, so I'll be looking forward to trying the new, this Storm, to see whether it follows the same kind of pattern in terms of what I think about Talisker. Kalila, that's the Distiller's Edition Muscatel finish. I tried that once, absolutely loved it, so can't wait to open that. And finally, my last Islay, which is Ardbeg 10. Quite strong. I really want to get hold of a bottle of Ugadale, but the 10, really good, except the Ugadale gets you a bit more sherry, a bit more sweetness in there, but looking forward to trying that as well. So yes, that's about it really for my collection. I hope you've enjoyed the video, really. And for post 51, I'll probably be back on the keyboard rather than on the behind the camera with the Scotch post, probably. I don't know which one yet, so if you've got any suggestions, it's out of focus, there we go, any suggestions, please let me know. And yeah, just leave a comment below if ever you want to see something particular which I've not reviewed yet. Thanks for watching, and see you soon again on the Malt Cask. Au revoir!